since for years, the Palestinian has intensified their involvement in both political parties, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, number one. Number two, they start taking sides, meaning if a candidate is fair and reasonable, you'll find that the Palestinian people start, rallying behind that candidate, giving him money, support, votes, and introducing him to our community so the community will vote for that candidate. So that is taking more and more part.
The Palestinian diaspora support for their people in occupied Palestine is of paramount importance, and when the Israeli aggression is at its peak, such support is urgent. Today, while Israeli occupation forces impose a strict blockade on Nablus, Jenin, and Jerusalem, the Palestinian diaspora and the pro-justice lovers' voice becomes urgent. To talk more about that, I have with me Palestinian American political activist and member of the U.S. Palestinian Council, Engineer Maher Abdel Qadir. Welcome, Mr. Maher, to our program.
Thank you.
Mr. Maher, as I said in the introduction, Nablus has been under the Israeli siege for more than a week. Jerusalem is the same. They raid into the city of Jenin and its refugee camp every day and night, killing Palestinian youth and children. The Palestinian citizens who live around the world, we are talking about 7 million Palestinians, they must have their saying. What do you think?
Well, if I want to assess the situation, it is as follows. Israel is dancing with death. Mm-hmm. What's happening is actually a dance of death. Since last year up to now, Israel wants to pursue two objectives. One, fragment the Palestinian people, 48, West Bank, Gaza, refugee camps, diaspora within the Arab world, and diaspora in Europe, America, and the rest of the world. That's number one. Number two, they want Palestinians to give up their quest for freedom, liberty, ending the occupations, and living like normal human beings. So, as a result of this objective, the Israeli army joining the extreme right Zionist people who are living in the Israeli settlements, they're working together as under the three objectives that the Israeli army declared, which is the three operations. One operation is Break the Way, which is being conducted by the settlers and the Israeli army in the West Bank. The second one is Deterrence or Law and Order, which is being conducted among the Palestinian people in 1948. And the third operation is Breaking the Dawn, which is against the Gaza. As a result of this, they have arrested over 5,600 Palestinians since the beginning of this year, held over 100 people. But when they arrested people, they arrested 15% of that number, which is close to 900 people, underage Palestinians or Palestinian children and kids. This extreme violence and destruction against the Palestinian is taking place to assure Israeli right wing that Israel is taking every measure to suppress the Palestinians. And unfortunately, they're getting the American support, and Europe is denouncing these activities but doing nothing. I hope I gave a good idea about the objective.
Yes. So the role of the Palestinian communities around the world, the Palestinian community in the United States, the Palestinian community in Latin America, the Palestinian community in Europe, everywhere they should have their saying.
Yes, and that's what scares Israel. Actually, what scares Israel and the Jewish community, specifically the Zionists, two things also. Number one, as I said earlier, they want to fragment the Palestinian. But the Palestinian diaspora, especially Europe, North America, South America, becoming more and more vocal, and they are creating a platform where little by little are being heard by the public in America, South America, and Europe. And that's a very scary thing, because before, Israel utilizes, major media outlets such as Fox or CNN and others in the world to explain their position, which is one-sided position that claims that the Palestinians are at fault because they are taking violent measures against Israel and Israeli citizens, and which is wrong. That's number one. Number two, the unity that the Palestinians are showing, especially after July of this year, where the number of Palestinians living between the river and the sea is 7,300,000 versus the Jewish people or the Israeli people who are living between the river and sea, which is 7 million. So for the first time ever, and since the establishment of the state of Israel, Palestinian population, river to the sea, is 350,000 people more than Israelis. And that's very scary. So the population of Palestine and the proactive role of the Palestinian communities in the diaspora is scaring Israel. And those two things, they cannot control automatically. The only way for them to control it is to utilize the settlers by harassing in daily basis the Palestinians. For example, people in Jenin, Nablus, Sukkot, they cannot sleep. The drones are over and making a lot of noises. The settlers are roaming in the alleys and the streets of Palestinian towns and cities, going to the field, cutting their trees, harassing them with roadblocks, hundreds of roadblocks, inconveniencing them in their daily lives. So all of that harassment is to eliminate the unity among the Palestinians, let them give up, and eliminate, the growth of Palestinians by pushing the Palestinian out of Palestine.
Yes, Maher. Okay, to be more specific, we know that Israel is the United States pampered baby. And if the United administration or a telephone from the White House to the Israeli occupation prime minister to stop their aggression and to lift off their siege on the Palestinian cities, whether in the occupied West Bank or in the Gaza Strip, Israel is going to do that. So what do you think the Palestinian community in the United States can do to mobilize for that and the pressure the Congress, the American administration to tell Israel to stop murdering children? 7-year-old child was killed, 11-year-old also was killed days after that. So your role in the United States?
Well, it's not my role, to be honest with you. It's the role of people like me,
in general,
you like me, and the community.
Yes.
And the community. So this role has been intensified, especially that we have a large number of second and third generations in the United States. I'm talking about specifically in the United States.
Yeah.
And this second and third generation were born in the U.S. They speak the language the way the other people, speak it, and so you don't recognize that they are foreigner except for their appearance and their name. So U.S. people and local people are taking them more seriously, but this young generation is dealing with young generation, okay? And is in control of the government and the power is the old generation that they believe Israel has full right, nothing else. Okay, they don't consider the Palestinians. So, but there are big, major changes happening in daily basis. For example, I've been in the U.S. for a long time. I never heard a Republican issue any positive message about the conflict between the Palestinian and the Israeli. 2 days ago, we had a Republican senator who circulated a letter demanding the State Department, all right, to treat Palestinians Palestinian Americans at the crossing point like the rest of Americans, which Israel never did and they will never do. So those changes are happening little by little, all right? You go to the universities, there are Palestinian youth and students are making major strides in advertising the just cause of the Palestinians. So it is happening, but it will take time to make a big difference and sway those countries to look at the Palestinians as equal to the Jewish or Israeli people.
Yes, and you're talking about the impact of the activism of the Palestinian community in the United States, mainly the current generation, Mayor, and we are talking about the midterm elections nearing in the United States. So what weight the Palestinian community there can have on these elections, and to let the candidates and the officials there have a more advanced position towards the Palestinian situation and the Palestinian cause in general?
Yes, that's a good question. If you recall, before the election of Rashida Tlaib, the number of congresspeople that they were supported by Palestinian community or activists was almost equal to zero. But the election of Rashida Tlaib and ally opened the light and opened the Palestinians to, if I get involved, I'll make a difference. So ever since for years, the Palestinian has intensified their involvement in both political parties, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, number one. Number two, they start taking sides, meaning if a candidate is fair and reasonable, you'll find that the Palestinian people start, rallying behind that candidate, giving him money, support, votes, and introducing him to our community so the community will vote for that candidate. So that is taking more and more part, and we see these things intensified because the Zionist movement, extreme right, 2-3 weeks before the actual election, which is happening the first Tuesday of next month, they start singling Palestinian and Arab leaders who support candidates from running for Congress and support Palestinian. They started targeting them, claiming that they are anti-Semitic, they are this, they are this. So they wanted to make sure that they are bad talked about by the media and others, so the candidates will give up dealing with those candidates. I believe that the Palestinian community in the U.S. and their leaders are really focused right now, and they are pushing a specific agenda, which is to support candidates that they support Palestinian people. And this is happening. And, the last election, which was last 2 years ago, we had almost 14 people in Congress that they are looking at the Palestinian cause and conflict in a fair mind, meaning they have the courage to go and sponsor certain resolutions in the Congress to support Palestine and Palestinians. So I think this is continuing, and the election in 3 weeks or less than 3 weeks, okay, you will see new voices in Congress being elected or being introduced, And that is scary to AIPAC, the Israeli, and the supporters of Israel in the United States.
Yeah, and Mr. Maher, my final question to you. The Israeli military officials threat of an all-out aggression on the Palestinian cities in occupied West Bank, maybe the scenario that they used in the year 2000 when they occupied all the Palestinian cities and killed more than 2,000 Palestinians. If Israel takes this step, okay, and escalate its aggression to this point, what would the current American administration position be from your own perspective?
Honestly, I hate to tell you that nothing. And, complaining to the United Nations and having resolution after resolution, or going to the European Union and ask them to condemn Israeli aggression against the Palestinians, or, the official position of the United States, which is, we encourage peace and peace settlement between the Palestinians. It is all empty talk that has no value, that has no impact on Israeli officials. And Israel since 1948 up to now knew that more than 900 resolutions took place in the United Nations, whether the General Assembly or the Security Council, and it has zero impact on their image or their policies. So unfortunately, the answer is nothing will happen in the U.S. What we need in actuality is more intensified solidarity movement with the Palestinians in Europe and in the United States and South America to convince those communities that the Palestinians have just cause. This is coupled with a unity among the Palestinians in 1948, West Bank and Gaza, where they will walk, from the same age or from the same point of view. That unity will scare and will make Israel, take back some of those aggressive, punitive actions against Palestinians. But I think history is in the Palestinian side, because every day, every month, every week, we see more solidarity with the Palestinian people and more aggressive against the Israeli punitive aggression and harassment of Palestinians and interrupting their daily life and not recognize them as a human civil beings. So the history on the side of Palestinians.
And we hope so, Mr. Maher Abdel Qadir, Palestinian American political activist and member of the U.S. Palestinian Council. It has been a great honor having you on our program. Thank you.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine. Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. And from you, Osama Nazal, have a nice time.